Hey guys, it's Spunkaby here for League Top 10, and today we are here of course to talk about a first impression video of Lee Sin, the Blind Monk, Riot Games' new 6300 IP champion for League of Legends. Now, the Blind Monk is not new to League of Legends. He actually was to appear in League of Legends back in beta. You actually can find him in the original trailer for League of Legends. But Riot actually scrapped him because they deemed his model and his abilities to be too lackluster and not interesting. But after popular demand, he has actually returned to the league, and we now actually get him as a 6300 IP champion. So to start off with, like I always do, let me tell you guys whether or not he is worth 6300 IP. The short answer is no. Yes, he is actually not worth 6300 IP in the least bit. A better 6300 IP champion is, of course, Nocturne. And the reason why I say Nocturne is because Lee Sin is classified as an assassin. If you go to League of Legends, look at his character, that's what it says, he's an assassin. However, there are a few things that severely cripple him in his ability to do anything assassin-like. So let's go ahead and talk about him, shall we? First of all, what actually cripples him in his ability to do anything effectively? Well, there are a few things. First of all, it is, of course, the damage amount and the range on his Q. His Q has very little damage, even at max rank. It actually does 10% of the person's maximum health that's missing at max rank. However, due to the speed and actual length of the projectile, which is very short, it is extremely hard to connect to someone and then actually follow up on that with any other abilities. Lee Sin's passive allows him to regen energy based off of the attacks he does after a ability. However, because some of his abilities require you to actually hit skill shots or to hit someone nearby that's an ally, you're a lot of times find yourself in situations where you don't have anybody to hit, which means you don't regen the energy you just spent, which means that you don't have the energy to spend on your next spells to follow up. So you kind of come into this broken gameplay style where you're trying to follow up, naturally with the skills that you would normally use. However, due to the fact that the range is short or the person's out of range just slightly for an auto attack, or you get stunned or slowed, you're stuck not having any kind of follow-up maneuver. So his Q, like I've said, is short range, the damage is somewhat lackluster, and it is also a very slow projectile. Even if the person is in a straight line in front of you and they're on the tip point of the actual projectile beam that you actually can use to line it up, due to the fact that the actual projectile itself is slow, you can't connect it with that person. They will actually move out of range of it by the time you actually click it, even though in the line itself it says that they're in range. That is a big issue, and that is a big actual detriment to him being able to gank. He essentially cannot gank because his Q is very unreliable. I don't care how good you are with it. If people are ducking and weaving, or if there's any creeps in the way, or if you're not right on top of someone, it's extremely hard to hit, and it is not something that I would choose as my preferred method of gap closing. Lee Sin, if you want to compare him to a champion, he is essentially Udyr, Akali, and Shin combined. Energy base with kind of stance dancing abilities like Udyr, self shield on himself with Akali's kind of bursty nature in that he tries to use his abilities in quick succession to kind of play off each other. However, the damage amount of his abilities, such as his E, which is Tempest and Cripple, is extremely lackluster, and also the range on that is extremely low. Meaning that when you're trying to get in range of someone to actually slow them, if you're not, again, right on top of the champion, you find yourself using E and them actually moving away just at the moment where you're trying to actually connect it. So you can then also have just wasted energy and you have not slowed anybody. If you do connect it, it is very decent. 4 seconds of 60% slow and 60% attack speed slow is quite good. It does gradually go down, but the upfront 60% is definitely noticeable. Another thing that I'm going to pull my chair up just a bit. Another thing that actually plagues him is the amount of damage his shield absorbs on his W. His W activates a shield both on himself and a target ally if you choose so. And the shield absorbs at max rank 200 damage, as well as giving you armor and lifesteal, as well as spell vamp if you activate it again on the second time, because his first three abilities, Q, W, and E, have a secondary effect, of course. The thing about his shield, though, is that 200 damage at max rank is an auto attack from any type of melee character. So an auto attack, you're blocking one auto attack, which is very inconsequential in team fights. It is no Morgana shield, it is no Shin shield, it is no Udyr shield. It is just a auto attack shield, one auto attack shield. Very lackluster. I do not enjoy that. I wish they would buff that significantly, at least to 250, if not 300 damage at max rank, just to make its presence more significant. They don't necessarily have to give the target of the shield additional HP on the shield, you know, the person that you're actually using it on, if you're not using it just on yourself. But at least for yourself, they should, because that would definitely allow him to sustain himself a lot more in team fights in the midst of the whole crowd, because that's what Riot wants you to do. Riot either wants you to go in there and do sustained damage, or go in and go out and do burst damage. But due to the energy amounts that he actually is lacking to use all of his abilities at one time, and the fact that he doesn't do very much damage in general, it doesn't really work out that way. Ability, or rather item wise, what I found out that I had to do is I found out I had to go kind of like a typical Udyr build. And when I mean typical Udyr build, I'm talking about going something like a Wriggles, Merc Treads, Randuin's Omen, Madred's Blood Razor, and Trinity Force. Those are about the 5 most go-to items that I went for. You don't go straight damage on him because he wouldn't survive in team fights. He doesn't have that sustainability from abilities, and he doesn't have that type of CC to keep him alive. He is very good at escaping if you have an ally nearby, and the fact that if people are on him, he can slow them very good. But as far as inside those team fights and in the midst of the battle, he doesn't benefit as much as other tanky DPS does, and he's certainly no assassin. So going straight AD items, not AP, AD items on him is definitely not recommended. The last item that you get, in this build right here, I'm showing, of course, Ghostblade for the armor penetration, but the last item was kind of left up to you. I would suggest a little bit more DPS, or I'd suggest a little more tanky, depending on what your team actually needs. I've played him as both tanky DPS, as both DPS, and of course both tank. Tanky DPS and tank work the best in that order. As a tank, he can survive and he can use his shield or slow a little bit more effectively. That's one thing that allows you to actually use your abilities to their most potential, I guess, as far as what they have to offer, in that if you're actually the tank, you're going to be in the midst of everybody, so you're of course going to be slowing them. But if you're aiming to be a DPS to chase someone down to damage, you're not going to find that you have the damage or you have the utility to do that because of the Q's slowness and E's relatively short range. So, if I had to recommend anything, I would recommend, if you like his style of play, go with a champion like Udyr. Udyr is a great choice. He is a stance stancer. He has his own shield. He has his ability to gap close effectively with his E, which is bear stance, which does not require you to do a skill shot or anything like that, and also speeds you up. He has everything that Lee Sin would need in order to actually be effective. Of course, Lee Sin is a different champion, a different play style, but Udyr's stuff is at least more reliable. I will even go so far as to say that Maokai, who I ragged on a bit a couple of reviews ago, and I felt that he had lackluster in-game damage, which he did. He had lackluster team fight presence. At least he provided some utility. I feel that he had of course, a dedicated stun, which he can target on someone regardless of enemy creeps or anything in the way. He had, of course, his slow from his Q, which had a fairly decent range, and of course he had the damage reduction and sight wards. So that gave him more utility overall. Whereas as far as Lee Sin, I just don't feel like he brings that much to a team. Other people can bring AoE slows, other people can bring shields more powerful, other people can bring more utility and damage. There's just not anything he provides that another champion can't do better, and better significantly. So at this time, I definitely have to say to hold off. As far as is he viable in lanes or viable in jungle, he is viable in both, but he just isn't a pick. He isn't someone that you should actually go for or choose as a 6300 IP champion. I'm actually appalled that they put him as 6300. I know a lot of you don't like 6300 champions overall, but since I review every single champion that comes out, he is not worth 6300 at all. Energy based, okay, he's energy based, whoop-de-doo. His abilities are extremely lackluster. His damage is extremely lackluster. His utility is extremely lackluster. he's just a lackluster champion. Elements went so far, Elements, who's a top tier player, went so far as to say that he is the currently worst champion in the game. And I have to say I almost agree with that, just because I feel like he's the worst 6300 IP I've spent in a long time. Is he fun? Maybe. He definitely doesn't feel as fun as Nocturne, who's another 6300 IP champion. And I definitely don't feel like I have a team presence in anything I do. I don't feel like I'm helping the team out at all, like zero. This other game I played, I literally halfway through the game said, you know, I feel like I have done nothing. I literally feel like I have done absolutely nothing in team fights, absolutely nothing to help this team at all, other than push a little lane some. And people were agreeing. You know, I was trying my butt off in those games, but Lee Sin wasn't pulling up the rear, wasn't pulling up, you know, his end of the bargain and actually providing what he needed to provide. And so, guys, I would definitely have to say, please hold off on buying Lee Sin for now. He's not worth it right now. Do not give in to the hype of everybody saying Lee Sin, you know, he's great, blah, blah, blah. Wait for the buffs. Spend your IP on other things. If you don't have Nocturne, I suggest getting Nocturne if you like, you know, assassin type characters, because he is a lot of fun to play. Lee Sin is not an assassin. Lee Sin is at best a support tank with minimal actual utility. Anyways, guys, that's been my review of course, Lee Sin the Blind Monk. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them down below. If they are well mannered, I will reply to them if possible. If you guys liked the video, please be sure to give it a like. And of course, if you guys like reviews like this, I do one for every single new champion that comes out. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and I will bring you more content. This is Spunkify out. I will see you later.
Use the Force, Luke.